Hello everybody, it's Jen. Welcome to day 8 of the holiday card series for 2019. If you're joining me from the Trinity Stamps blog, welcome. Today we are playing with the Winter Friends stamp set and the coordinating dies. And I'd already cut apart my dies here. I'm just going to show you the other ones that come in the set. They also have some dies to cut out the sentiments, which I think is absolutely brilliant and makes life so much easier. So we're starting out with the stamping of all our little friends here and some of the ornaments that we can hang from our friends, and then we're going to jump into the coloring. So like always, I have the marker caps to the left hand side of the screen, and I always organize them so the darkest is at the top and then moving their way down to the lightest. So this just helps you know which colors I'm using as I color here and helps give you some ideas for color combinations if you want to color up the images similarly. So I'm going to go ahead and color our reindeer first. I'm using a light brown, almost like a tan color. This is one of my favorite color combinations, the E35, the E34, and the E31. It's perfect in my opinion for a deer. I'm also going to go ahead and color up the antlers for our moose as well with the same color combination. Now for the shading, I'm just doing some shading around the areas where there's clothing, where part of the body kind of overhangs another part, so where his head is leaning over his body, and then underneath his belly as well for his legs. For our moose, I'm just going to color him using E25, E23, and E34, so making him just a little bit of a darker brown. And I was just kind of laughing there because you could see me pause. I was just trying to make sure that I was coloring the right areas of the moose. It's a little hard to tell where his antlers kind of get mixed in with his scarf, so I just wanted to make sure I paused there and was coloring where I wanted my darker markers. So going to add some shadows under his antlers and under his scarf, and then under his nose as well on his leg that's kind of sticking up in the air, which I think is super adorable. These little characters are so fun and whimsical with their sweet little expressions on their faces. Now with the moose, I felt like a lot of my dark color got pushed back, so I did go over him a second time and I brought a little bit more of that E25 into the coloring and then blended that out quite a bit further with the E23, and then just leaving very little space for the highlight color, the E34. For my little penguin, I'm going to use some warm grays, so I'm using W9, W7, and W5. So most of my coloring today is with a 3-color blend. The little penguin here, his areas are quite tiny for the black, so I'm just barely touching the marker to the paper. I don't want to get any bleeding here, but if I do, it's actually going to be okay because I'm going to do his belly in warm grays too. A little bit lighter, but I can kind of push back some of that color if it gets onto his belly area. I'm going to color up the little puffin as well, which I think is super adorable. I don't know that I've ever seen a stamp set with a puffin, so that was super fun. I live on the east part of Canada and right near the ocean, and in some areas we do have puffins, so super fun to see a puffin in a stamp set. So here's where I'm bringing in the softer colors for my white areas. I'm using W3 and W1 and blending that out with the blender pen. I thought I was going to use the W00, but there really wasn't enough space to do that, so just stuck with the W3 and the W1. For the orange on our penguin and puffin, I'm using YR18, just one color. It's a very tiny area. And then the YR38, I think, for the side of the penguin's beak as well. So now I'm going to bring in my reds. These are very tiny areas. I'm only going to do a 2-color blend here with the R39 and the R29. You get enough shading with those 2 colors for those small areas, so I didn't want to go ahead and risk bleeding by adding another color in. Now for the hooves, I'm using E49 and E79. E49 is actually darker than the E79, so you just want to keep that in mind. But I love this color combination for a dark brown. Now I'm going to go ahead and color up some of the outerwear, the scarves and stuff with the green. So I wanted to bring in traditional Christmas colors here for this card. So I'm using G28, which is the darkest, and G46 as the lightest. Again, just a 2-color blend for their clothing, as these are really tiny areas. I wanted to bring in some blue, so I'm using B02 and B32. Now I will come in later and actually change the color of the blue to match the ink that I'm going to use. So you'll see that in a little bit here. So now I'm just going ahead and adding the shadows for the areas that I want white. So I'm using C3 and C1 and then blending that out with the colorless blender. And that will pretty much finish up the coloring for our card. So I wanted to use a bunch of the snowflakes that come in the stamp set. So I brought out my Catherine Pooler ink in Something Borrowed. It's a really nice vibrant blue, and simply stamp those out onto some cardstock. I wanted a whole bunch, so I just flipped my paper around and I'm going to stamp those a second time. With the Catherine Pooler inks, you just want to tap them very lightly to your stamps and they stamp beautifully. So I am going to go ahead and die cut all those snowflakes, and now I'm going to work on my background. So the Catherine Pooler ink in Something Borrowed matches the Distress Oxide in Salty Ocean really well, so I decided to use that and some tumbled glass. I just have a laminated piece of cardstock to the back. I didn't have my glass mat out, so it helps blend around the edges of your cardstock. So that's a good tip if you don't have a glass mat or want to use a blending area that's quite affordable if you already have a laminator in your craft room. Went ahead and cut up a snowbank here with the Heffy Doodle stitched Sloppy Joe borders out of some white glitter cardstock. And now I'm just going to arrange my little characters here onto my card. The sentiment that I'm using is good friends are like snowflakes, all different and all beautiful, and I absolutely love that. I wanted to make sure that that was going to fit on the bottom under the mousse, so you saw me just kind of put that down there so I could figure out where I wanted the mousse to be. Now I'm going to have them stacked up on each other, so I wanted to go ahead and adhere the deer down first, and I'm going to now go ahead and adhere the mousse, and I'm just using some liquid adhesive here. I'm not using any foam tape today for this card, but I wanted the mousse a little bit in front of the deer's legs, so that's why I put the deer down first. Now I can go ahead and put my penguin on. I'm just trying to figure out where I want him for placement. And I'm going to have him a little bit more to the right hand side, and then I'm going to add the puffin to the top, and I'm going to kind of put him on a diagonal to make it look like he's sort of hanging on with his one foot on top of our penguin's hat. I am going to add some of the Christmas ornaments to our mousse and one in the hand of the penguin. I thought these were so adorable. Again, really creative, and I love that you can decorate the mousse's antlers with the little ornaments. Once I get those in place, I can go ahead and add the sentiment. Now, the glitter cardstock that I'm using, I tried to adhere the sentiment with my liquid glue. It normally works, but I think I should have probably put an acrylic block over top of the sentiment, but I didn't, so it wasn't staying. So I just grabbed a little bit of red line tape. This is super sticky tape, and this will not come off my card. I will add a little bit more liquid glue to either side just to make sure it's nice and adhered to my glitter cardstock, and then I'm going to add the snowflakes. So I really wanted to make it look like it was snowing, and obviously adding the snowflakes to go with the sentiment. However, I did want this to be a Christmas card, so that's why I colored up some of their clothing with the traditional red and green. I'm just going to go ahead and glue these down onto my card panel. I'm going to have a couple of them hanging off the edge just so it looks nice and organic. It just helps frame the card when you have some hanging off the edge. And of course, those areas that are off the card panel, I will trim up with my scissors. So just kind of filling in the blank space on the back of the card just to give the card a bit more interest. I love that this stamp set comes with a whole bunch of different styled snowflakes. Perfect. You can use one and do all your snowflakes the same, or you can choose which ones you want to use and use all of them like I did on this card today. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp Season's Greetings on the inside. This is from the Greetings of the Seasons stamp set. There's 14 different sentiments in this stamp, and it's perfect for all of your holiday cards. There's a sentiment in there that also says Happy Craftmas, which I think is super fun if you're sending cards to your crafty friends. I'm going to go ahead here and add this to my card base. I need to trim this up. I don't know. I've already said this in a video. I think I tend to make my card bases while I'm watching TV, and I must have been off in my measurements because lately all of my card bases have been slightly off, but that's okay. Super easy to trim up. Now I'm going to bring in my Nouveau Glaze and just add that to some of the clothing. You can see here where I darkened up the blue color to match the Something Borrowed Catherine Pooler ink, and I like how that matches much better. Now I'm just going to come in with a black glaze pen and darken up some of their eyes. This really allows their eyes and stuff to pop off the card a little bit more. I did do the antlers on the reindeer as well. And that will pretty much finish up the card. So I hope you're enjoying the holiday card series. I'm having a lot of fun getting lots of Christmas cards done, which is always great. Thank you so much for joining me. I love how this card turned out. It is super cute. So there's a close-up, and I'll leave you with day 8 of the holiday card series for last year, and I will see you all really soon. Take care. Bye.